I'm going to borrow your terminology and call bullshit on your entire career in Congress. It has been a disgrace to the American people. You can reclaim your time all you want.
Mr. Chairman, you're going to allow a witness to speak this way?
Let's kick this off with the obvious. Nobody tuned into this FBI hearing expecting Shakespeare, but what they got was something closer to reality TV mixed with a roast battle. Kash Patel, newly sitting as FBI director, didn't just spar with Rep. Eric Swalwell, he nuked him with a profanity-laced mic drop that had everyone's jaw on the floor. His exact words, "I'm gonna call Bullsh on your entire career in Congress." Boom, Capitol Hill just turned into Comedy Central. Now, normally congressional hearings are about facts, records, and gentlemanly disagreements. You know, the kind of dry drama that puts even insomniacs to sleep. But Patel decided to scrap the script. Instead of polite deflection, he went straight WWE heel mode, the kind of move that gets clipped, memed, and replayed 1,000 times before dinner. And boy, did it land. Patel supporters cheered like their team just hit a last-second touchdown. Swalwell's allies clutched pearls like someone had cursed in church. And the rest of us, we grabbed the popcorn because, let's be honest, watching politicians insult each other is way more entertaining than watching them pretend to read policy notes. But here's the deeper point. Patel wasn't just lashing out. He knew exactly what he was doing. In today's political game, the winner isn't the guy with the best argument, it's the guy who delivers the soundbite that dominates Twitter, TikTok, and late-night news. Patel didn't win the debate. He won the meme war. But this verbal brawl wasn't just about egos. It was sparked by a political grenade called the Epstein files. And in fact, too, we unpack why those files turned the hearing into a battleground. Every political showdown needs a trigger, and in this case, it wasn't a gavel, it wasn't an agenda item, it was Jeffrey Epstein's files. Yeah, nothing spices up a congressional hearing like bringing America's most notorious name back into the spotlight. Rep. Eric Swalwell thought he had Patel cornered when he grilled him about whether the FBI was protecting powerful names linked to Epstein, especially the big orange one, Donald Trump. Swalwell's strategy was clear. Tie Epstein to Trump, paint Patel as complicit, and drop the headline, FBI Director Shields Trump in Epstein Probe. It was less about uncovering truth, more about setting the stage for the next viral tweet. But Patel wasn't buying tickets to that show. He dodged, deflected, and finally detonated with the now legendary Bullsh line. Instead of being cornered, Patel flipped the script, making Swalwell look like the opportunist. To Patel, the Epstein files weren't about justice, they were just another political grenade being lobbed across the aisle. Here's the irony. Everyone knows Epstein's files are political dynamite, but nobody actually wants to hold them. Democrats weaponize them to smear Trump, Republicans weaponize them to smear Clinton, and in the middle, a pile of documents so toxic they make nuclear waste look like tap water. Patel understood this. By insulting Swalwell's career instead of answering the question, he made sure the story wasn't Trump in Epstein files, it was Patel calls Bullsh on Swalwell. He didn't just dodge the grenade, he threw it back across the table with the pin still pulled. But this clash wasn't born overnight. Patel and Swalwell have history, and in Fact 3, we'll dig into why their feud feels less like politics and more like a long-running grudge match.
If you thought this clash was a one-night-only event, think again. Kash Patel and Eric Swalwell have been circling each other for years like rival boxers waiting for the rematch. Swalwell has long painted himself as the watchdog of Trump-era corruption, while Patel carved out his reputation as one of Trump's fiercest defenders. Their feud isn't new, it's personal. Back during the Trump administration, Patel was heavily involved in counter-investigations into the Russia probe. Guess who was one of the loudest critics of Trump's ties to Russia? Yep, Eric Swalwell. From day one, Swalwell treated Patel as part of the cover-up crew, and Patel, in turn, treated Swalwell like the face of Democratic witch hunts. So when Swalwell started drilling Patel about Epstein and Trump, it wasn't just about documents, it was about history. Patel saw a political enemy rehashing the same old storyline. Trump corrupt, Trump's allies shady, FBI protecting him. And Patel wasn't going to sit there like a punching bag. That's why he went for the jugular. By attacking Swalwell's career, Patel wasn't responding to the question, he was settling a score. He was saying, "You've been gunning for me for years, and now it's my turn." The hearing turned into less of a Q&A and more of a grudge match with microphones. But while these two traded blows, the bigger question lingered. What about the FBI's credibility itself? Because in Fact 5, the spotlight shifts from insults to an institution that's been battered, bruised, and accused of playing politics for years. Lost in the shouting match was the fact that this hearing was supposed to be about something bigger, the FBI's integrity. For years, both sides of the aisle have accused the Bureau of being political. To Democrats, it's been too cozy with Trump. To Republicans, it's been a weapon used against him. Basically, the FBI has managed the rare feat of being hated by everybody. Enter Kash Patel, now sitting as FBI director. The symbolism alone was gasoline on the fire. A former Trump loyalist now running the Bureau? To Democrats, that was like letting the fox run the henhouse. To Republicans, it was a long overdue correction. The hearing was always going to be explosive. Swalwell used the Epstein files as his weapon of choice, but the underlying theme was trust. Can Americans trust the FBI to handle politically sensitive investigations fairly? And Patel's profanity-laced outburst, while entertaining, didn't exactly scream measured leadership. Instead, it fed into the narrative that the Bureau isn't neutral, it's just another battlefield for partisan wars. The irony? The FBI used to pride itself on being above politics, a sort of untouchable guardian of justice. Now it's practically a main character in America's culture wars. Whether it's Hunter Biden's laptop, Trump's classified documents, or Epstein's files, the Bureau isn't just investigating controversies, it is the controversy. And here's where things really heat up. While Patel was sparring with Swalwell, outside the chamber, big tech in Silicon Valley were glued to the drama. Why? Because Fact 5 shows how this circus could ripple into the world of innovation and industry.
Here's the thing. Hearings like this one aren't really about policy anymore. They're about content. And boy, did this one deliver. Patel versus Swalwell was less oversight and more overtime with Jimmy Kimmel. Every insult, every glare, every raised eyebrow was instantly clipped, memed, and uploaded. Think about it. 10 years ago, a congressional hearing meant endless C-SPAN coverage, with the viewership smaller than a chess club meeting. Now, it's TikTok gold. Patel's bullshit line wasn't just a gaffe, it was a viral moment. And in today's political economy, viral moments are worth more than coherent arguments. Swalwell knows this game. He's had his own viral fame. Remember the infamous Fartgate moment on live TV? So when he baited Patel with Epstein questions, he was fishing for a clip. But Patel flipped it. Instead of Swalwell going viral, it was Patel's profanity that broke the internet. This is the new political battlefield. Not policy papers, not amendments, but 15-second sound bites designed for Twitter and Instagram. Politicians are less like lawmakers and more like influencers chasing engagement metrics. In hearings, they've become the stage. Which begs the question, if Congress is playing for clicks, who's actually doing the governing? Because while everyone was glued to Patel's insult, the actual topic, the FBI's credibility, barely made the highlight reel. But don't think this fight stayed contained within Washington. Nope. This spat had ripple effects across the country. And in Fact 6, we'll look at how the public reacted, from MAGA memes to liberal meltdowns. The internet is undefeated, and the Patel-Swalwell clash proved it yet again. Within minutes, Twitter was ablaze with clips, TikTok was remixing the bullshit line into trending audio, and YouTube had 10 different Patel destroys Swalwell thumbnails in neon red text. On the right, conservatives were celebrating Patel like he just body-slammed Swalwell in the middle of the chamber. Memes showed Patel in boxing gloves, Swalwell flat on the mat. Commentators called it the line of the year, proof that Republicans finally had someone willing to fight dirty. On the left, liberals were horrified. They argued that Patel's profanity showed he wasn't fit to run the FBI, that his outburst undermined the seriousness of the investigation. Some even claimed it was staged, political theater meant to distract from real questions about Epstein's files. And the middle, well, independents and casual viewers just laughed. To them, it was entertainment. In an era where politics feels more like reality TV, Patel's line was pure ratings gold. The serious questions got buried under a mountain of memes, reaction videos, and late-night jokes. This is the paradox of modern politics. The more outrageous the moment, the more attention it gets. But the more attention it gets, the less anyone remembers the substance behind it. Patel knew this, Swalwell knew this, and the public, they ate it up. But if you thought this was just an online circus, think again, because Fact 7 reveals how this exchange could actually shake up both men's political futures.
Here's the million-dollar question. Did Patel's profanity nuke his credibility or catapult him into Republican stardom? The answer depends on who you ask. On one hand, critics argue that dropping bullshit in a congressional hearing proves Patel lacks the discipline needed to run the FBI. The director of the bureau isn't supposed to sound like a guy arguing with his neighbor about stolen lawn chairs. It fed into the Democratic narrative that Patel is more political operative than law enforcement professional. But flip the coin, and you'll see why conservatives are practically throwing Patel a parade. To them, his raw language wasn't a weakness, it was authenticity. Finally, someone was saying what millions of Republican voters scream at their TVs. That Swalwell's career is built on partisanship, not substance. One fiery soundbite gave Patel more credibility with Trump's base than 1,000 hours of dry testimony ever could. And here's the twist. In modern politics, controversy isn't a setback, it's a campaign strategy. If Patel plays this right, his outburst could become his calling card, paving the way for bigger roles in conservative politics. Think TV contributor gigs, fundraising boosts, maybe even a run for office down the line. But while Patel's future might have gotten brighter, Swalwell's situation is a little murkier. Because Fact 8 asks the question, what happens when you're the guy on the receiving end of a viral insult? If Patel came out swinging, Swalwell came out roasted. The internet had a field day at his expense. Memes popped up showing him drowning in bullshit emojis. Late-night shows replayed the insult with laugh tracks, and Twitter dubbed him Mr. Bullshit Career. Not exactly the legacy he was aiming for. But here's the catch. Swalwell's no stranger to controversy. Remember when he became a punchline for that infamous Fartgate clip? He survived it, doubled down, and kept his seat in Congress. For him, ridicule is just part of the package. The danger now isn't the joke, it's the narrative. Patel branded his entire career as worthless, and that line could stick. Swalwell's defense was to stay composed, but let's be real. In the age of viral politics, silence looks like surrender. Every replay of Patel's insult without a comeback makes Swalwell look weaker, and in politics, perception is reality. Still, Swalwell isn't done. His base views him as someone who takes on Trump's allies head-on, and Patel's attack only reinforces that role. For Democrats, he's not the guy who got insulted. He's the guy so threatening that Republicans lose their cool when he speaks. That framing could be his shield. But outside the base, oof. For swing voters who only catch headlines and clips, Swalwell risks being remembered less as a lawmaker and more as a political punching bag. And here's where it gets bigger. Because while this was framed as a one-on-one fight, the fallout stretches way beyond just Patel and Swalwell. In Fact 9, we'll see how this clash reflects the larger chaos consuming Congress itself.
If there's one lesson from this circus, it's that Congress has fully embraced its side hustle, political theater. The Patel-Swalwell showdown wasn't a policy debate, it was performance art. Two men, one microphone, and a nation watching like it was Monday Night Raw. Think about it. How many viewers can explain the finer details of FBI oversight? Probably about the same number who still use dial-up internet. But how many people know that Patel called Swalwell's career bullshit? Millions. That's the reality. Hearings aren't about oversight anymore. They're about optics. And the craziest part? Both sides benefit. Patel gets to rally the MAGA base with his no-holds-barred smackdown. Swalwell gets to posture as the fearless Democrat who stood up to Trump's FBI guy. It's kayfabe politics, scripted rivalries, dramatic confrontations, and plenty of sound bites for the highlight reel. The losers, of course, are regular Americans who wanted answers about the FBI. Instead, they got insults, memes, and another reason to roll their eyes at Washington. But here's the secret. That's the system now. Congress is less about passing laws and more about producing viral content for the next campaign ad. And that brings us to the final act, because while Patel versus Swalwell was entertaining,
The bigger question is this: what does it mean for America's political future? Fact 10 has the answer. The Patel-Swalwell brawl wasn't just a clash of egos. It was a snapshot of where American politics is headed. Spoiler, it's not toward thoughtful debates. It's toward soundbites, insults, and meme warfare. In a healthier system, hearings would strengthen institutions, rebuild trust, and keep officials accountable. Instead, they've become battlegrounds where scoring the viral moment is more valuable than uncovering the truth. And that's dangerous because the issues at the heart of this hearing, FBI credibility, Epstein files, political corruption, actually matter. But they got drowned out by one profanity-laced insult. Patel's outburst showed that bluntness wins attention. Swalwell's composure showed that silence risks looking weak. Together, they revealed a new political rulebook. If you're not making headlines, you're losing. And that rulebook is shaping the next generation of leaders, politicians who act more like influencers than lawmakers. So what does America's future look like? More viral fights, more hearings where the loudest line overshadows the real issue, more politics as entertainment. And unless voters start demanding substance over spectacle, this is the show we're all stuck watching. So here's the question. Was Patel's outburst a bold stand against political hypocrisy, or just another sign that Congress has become a circus? Drop your take in the comments, smash that like button if you want more sharp breakdowns, and subscribe to @Global Pulse Newz. Because if politics is the new reality TV, we're here to make sure you don't miss a single episode.